After keeping neutral for a long time, the United States has now declared some of the actions of China in the South China Sea illegal. The South China Sea has been contested for a long time now, with several nations laying claims to the waters and the small islands within the territory. But China feels like 90% of the South China Sea belongs to them, and therefore they say that they should be able to do whatever they want within the sea. So because of that, China has been rapidly expanding over the last decade in the South China Sea, buying up and taking over these smaller islands, sometimes smaller island nations, and sometimes placing military outposts on those islands. So now, however, the US is changing its foreign policy to make almost all of that illegal. And the reason that is important is that before, China wasn't breaking any laws, but now officially they will be. I don't suspect that that will stop China at all. So what happens the next time China commits an illegal act according to the United States? Well, I don't want to fearmonger, but I generally don't think that the US is hesitant to use their military dominance when they feel like another nation is overstepping a law. All of that does leave us with the very real possibility that a conflict could break out, and in the worst case scenario, war. So in today's video, we will take a look at what is most likely to happen out of all of this, right after the intro. Alright, so the South China Sea has been an area of conflict for a long time now. The US has mostly remained neutral in all of this, but recently they signed defense military treaties with India and Australia, leaving them with the rights to actually use their military platforms and installations all around the South China Sea. That means that now the US has a legal reason to have a presence within the sea. Although I'm sure they didn't feel like they needed one to begin with. Now China, on the other hand, feels like the South China Sea was always theirs. So they see the US superpower as a force trying to sneak into their rightfully owned territory. In the interest of being fair, I do want to say that I can understand where China is coming from, because I don't think the US would appreciate a huge Chinese CCP navy showing up outside of Hawaii or someplace close to them. So the two nations having a military presence in the area has led to some near confrontations in the past, but luckily and thankfully so far, cooler heads have prevailed. But now, as this Fox News article says, things are about to change. US appears to change policy on Beijing's unlawful actions in the South China Sea. After years of neutrality, the US has issued a warning to China over its claims in the region. Let me show you guys what this article has to say. The United States and China have long been at odds over maritime freedom in the South China Sea, but this week marked the first time that Washington made an official policy shift to clamp down on Beijing's activity, calling it illegal and thus opening the legal floodgates to a potential military response. On Monday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a statement that the US is making clear Beijing's claims to offshore resources across most of the China Sea are completely unlawful, as is its campaign of bullying to control them. So Mike Pompeo is specifically saying here that the taking over of these islands within the South China Sea is now considered illegal. The same goes for China's grab on this abundance of natural gas and resources within the South China Sea. Both of these elements are vital for China's long-term plans of taking over the area financially and economically. Let's read the last part here. Beijing uses intimidation to undermine the sovereign rights of Southeast Asia coastal states in the South China Sea, bully them out of offshore resources, assert unilateral dominion, and replace international law with might makes right. Beijing's approach has been clear for years, he continued. The People's Republic of China, the PRC, has no legal grounds to unilaterally impose its will on the region. So what he's also talking about here is that in 2009, China also imposed their so-called 9-dash line in the South China Sea. The 9-dash line was an area that the Chinese government said that this is our borders within the South China Sea. The problem was that it contained more than 90% of all of the sea, and it invaded space into other smaller nations. The problem for China is that no one ever agreed to the 9-dash line, so when China sent it to an independent tribunal court, the court said that they had no rights to create this 9-dash line. So you might be asking, why are all of these laws changing important? Well, it's important because once the US feels like it has a legal right to be in a place, it very rarely backs down militarily. And since there's no way that China will ever accept this new law, people worry that a conflict is now just a matter of time. I brought up this article from Australia because Australia now has a very big stake in all of this as well. You remember the defense treaties I talked about earlier in this video? Well, those defense treaties demand between the US, India, and Australia, demand that if the US goes into a conflict, Australia and India will join as well. So let's see what they have to say about it. US clash with China now inevitable. The US has declared China's territorial grab illegal and it wants its bullied neighbors to stand their ground. The gloves are now off. In the article it says, the United States is now explicitly declaring it illegal for China to engage in fishing, oil and gas exploration, or other economic activities in those areas or to interfere with its neighbors' rights to do so, says Asia Maritime Initiative Senior Fellow Gregory Poling. The next time China does engage in illegal harassment of its neighbors within their EEZ exclusive economic zones, a more forceful US response might lead China to double down out of a sense of nationalism, he added. And there you have it in a nutshell. By making these laws, by making fishing illegal, fishing for food for your own people, if you're China, by making that illegal, the US will have to enforce those laws. China, on the other hand, doesn't recognize that the US can just make these laws, these foreign policy changes. So they'll see it as a rival superpower trying to encroach on their own territory, on their own backyard. I really think it'll be difficult for China to back down in this case. There are so many things going on right now with China and they're being pressured on a lot of different fronts. So I don't think that they will let a rival superpower come into their own backyard in what they think is rightfully theirs and tell them how to act or what to do. Especially when you consider that 30% of the world's trade goes right through that area. They won't give up their claims. China is really struggling on a lot of issues right now. They're taking over slowly but surely Hong Kong and making sure that that democracy is something of the past in Hong Kong. They have all of these border tensions with India on the west side of the country. And now they have these major trade wars with the US and with Australia to the south. So even though these moves in the South China Sea by the US have been planned for a long time, this might be the one thing that makes it too hard to swallow for China. But let's hope not. Remember to subscribe to the channel to get these daily videos on underreported international issues. The best way you can help me out, should you wish to do so, is to share these videos on your social media. If you think it's been informative or helpful in any way, that would really help me out a lot. I'm a small channel, so everything helps. Thank you so much for watching and have a really good day.